Welcome to your new way to do English test corrections. It's going to be a lot shorter and sweeter than what you might be used to. So normally in class, we would go over the most missed questions together, and then every single student would look at their test, what they missed and what they got right, and they would correct every single answer that they got incorrect, whether they made a 90 or they made a 40. That's not going to work for the way the situation currently is. So if you made above a 70 on the test, you don't need to continue this video. I'll play another video similar to this next time. If you made less than a 70 on the test, so anything below the number 70, you want to continue watching so you can get your test grade bumped up, and so you're happier with that. And we can talk about why the right answers are the right answers. So the very first thing is make sure you click on the link on the next page. I think it's on the next page. In your Canvas that has the link to go to these test corrections. This is your own copy. So the first thing you're going to do is add your name. You might also want to put your name up here in the title. Next up, so to do your test corrections, instead of doing the ones that you missed, the easiest way for us to do this is to look at the most missed questions. Chances are very high that if you made less than a 70, you missed at least 2 and probably 3 of these questions. So our most missed questions on this test are question number 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's kind of weird that they were all right in a row. What I'm going to do is go through each one of these most missed questions. You are only going to pick 3 of them to actually type in and then turn into your teacher. So let's say that you want to do 1, 4, and 5 because those are the ones you think you missed. Perfect. That means that you're not going to do 3 and 6. So you only need to do 3 of the test corrections. Here we go. So moving on, let's go ahead and have a look at this. The first thing I need to say before we look at any of the questions is that the most important thing you do on these reading tests is to read your full passage from start all the way to finish to the end before you answer questions. Unlike in 6th and 7th grade, where it's pretty important to read the passage, in 8th grade, it is essential. Most of our TEKs in 8th grade focus on the big picture and putting things together once you know the big story. For example, in number 1, if you don't know the context or what's around this passage, there's a very good chance you're going to accidentally pick the distractor answer. So we're going to go ahead and start with question number 1. If you want to skip number 1 and do a different question, go ahead and skip through the video now. Question number 1. It says oh, I clicked on it. No. There we go. Read this sentence from paragraph 8. For the first time on our journey, we walked out on deck and felt the sweet bite of the cold, clean air on our faces. The sensory language in this sentence best reveals the author's, and if you look at each one of these, all of the answers show that the sensory language is revealing an author's feeling or the author's thoughts about something. Okay, so first we got to know what sensory language is. Sensory language has to do with your 5 senses, what we smell, feel, taste, touch, and hear. In this case, it's what the author feels against their face, the cold bite of the clean air. Just seeing this, I might pick the extreme weather conditions, but the problem is we have to go back and find this so we can see it in context. Once you find it, you see it falls after they talk about surviving these walls of waves through the Drake passage. And at one point, our author even says, is this worth it? Will the gain be worth all of this struggle? And then they arrive, the seas go calm, and that's when they feel the sweet bite of the cold, clean air. Y'all, that's definitely a description of a sense of relief and accomplishment that they actually made it to Antarctica. So make sure you're reading the whole context. So here we go. The correct answer for number 1 is A, because the sensory language shows relief. You could also say the correct answer for number 1 is A, because the author is relieved to have finally arrived in Antarctica. You can go back on the video if you need to hear that again. All right, moving on. Pause if you need to. Question number 3. So this question is all about the summary. As a reminder, your summary should have a beginning, it should have a middle, it should have an end. Most importantly, it should contain something of the main message that the author left you with at the end. The way it made you feel at the end, there should be some of that. So if you look at A, it says, when the author and his daughter went a trip to Antarctica, they board an icebreaker ship and travel through an area called the Drake Passage. So there's your beginning. During their time in Antarctica, they observe a penguin colony made up of tens of thousands of penguins. There's your middle. They must adhere to certain rules while they are there. There's your middle. There's no end there about their experience, so it can't be A. Let's look at B. Getting to Antarctica requires people to travel by ship through a rough area of the sea. After winning a trip to Antarctica to observe the penguins, the author and his daughter make this difficult voyage. There's your beginning, there's your middle. Once they arrive, they see thousands of penguins up close, there's your end, and know the trip was worth the suffering. That is the author's main message, that this really, really difficult thing that they did, it was all worth it. Everything was worth it. C is a really close answer. A lot of you guys picked C. The trouble is it doesn't talk enough about the passage and going to Antarctica and how they get there. So they just focus on the penguins. So that's not the best answer. So the best answer is B. Here we go. The correct answer is B because the summary has a beginning, middle, end, and includes the author's main message. One more time, the correct answer is B because there is a beginning, middle, end, and it includes the author's main message. All right, let's go ahead and move on to question number 4. Based on the selection, what did the author most likely gain from his experience? So to know this one, we would have had to have read from start to finish. If you just go straight to the end, you might get lucky and figure it out, but you have to know what the author went through to really know what they've experienced. So towards the end, after he talks about this crazy experience with surviving these waves and then meeting these awesome penguins, they thought about what it takes to survive in Antarctica. It says the experience was unforgettable, no pain, no gain. So we're going to look for something that the author has gained. Well, yeah, maybe he gained an understanding of how animals survive in cold climates, but the problem with that is that's not the biggest lesson. That's not his biggest takeaway. No, B doesn't sound quite right either. C has nothing to do with the story. D says an increased respect for the power of nature. Well, that's a little bit tricky because he doesn't talk about the power of nature in those exact words, but he does talk about the crazy, tall, strong, scary waves and about his amazement with the penguins. The waves and the penguins are both part of nature. So he also talks about how cold Antarctica is. So the best answer is D. The best answer is D because the author talks about the difficult journey, the penguins, and the cold of Antarctica. The best answer is D because the author talks about the journey, the penguins, and the cold of Antarctica. So that is the power of nature right there. Okay, so moving on to question number 5. Remember, if you needed to pause on a question before this, do it. 5. The organizers of the expedition created penguin etiquette most likely to. So we got to go back in our passage and find penguin etiquette to make sure we're getting it in context. So here we go. So they get instructions. There were rules about what you can't do, what the penguins can do. So we are looking for the best answer. Remember, even if you like the first answer, you should still always read the other ones. So many of you guys picked answer A. Limit the interaction of penguins and the visitors. Well, no. They said that you can't touch a penguin, but the penguins can touch you. You can't crowd them, but they can crowd you. So they were all up by the penguins. Some penguins left their babies with his daughter for 20 minutes. So A is not the best answer. Let's go check for a better one. B, minimize the possible negative effects of visitors on the penguin habitat. Well, yeah, I think that's going to be our best answer, but let's check. Create awareness among the visitors about the challenges penguins face. No, those rules aren't about challenges. Boost visitors' chances of observing tens of thousands of penguins each day. Well, I mean, maybe if they're not scaring them off, but they specifically said right here, if we read the whole passage, penguins are extremely curious and not fearful of humans. So your best answer is actually going to be B. They don't want people touching the penguins or crowding the penguins, probably because they don't want the visitors to have any negative effects on the penguins or on their habitat. So B is the best answer because the rules are there to protect the penguins' habitat. B is the best answer because the rules are there to protect the penguins' habitat. All right, we're going to move on to our last one. This is question number 6. As a reminder, you only need to do 3 test corrections. So if you've already done 3, you don't need to do question number 6. Here we go. Which sentence from the selection best conveys the author's main message? So again, the author's main message is what they want, what they got out of the experience and what they want you to take away from the experience that they had. So let's look at our different answers. Oh, these are all examples like directly from the text. So we need to find what the author's message is first and then make sure that our words go with it. So usually the author's message can be seen towards the end in the conclusion where they're like reflecting back on the experience, because this is a memoir, right? This is a single experience and they reflect back on it. They talk about both experiences were unforgettable. One would not have been possible without the other. No pain, no gain. So that's probably going to be our main message. But mentally prepared as we were, we also had to be physically aware. I mean, they did, but is that the main message? No. Every night aboard our safe-form ship, we thought about what it takes to survive in Antarctica, an incredibly harsh place. That one is really close. That's a great distractor answer because it's something they're reflecting on. But that's not the message that the author leaves us with. Over the course of our visit, we came to respect and even revere the power of the sea. That is also a brilliant distractor answer. The problem is they came to respect and revere something else too, and that was the penguins. So the author's main message isn't about respecting the sea. It's about respecting both of those experiences. And here it is. Both experiences were unforgettable, and one would not have been possible without the other. So D is our best answer. D is the best answer because it encompasses the author's takeaway, where, like a takeaway is what they want you to leave the story with. The idea that these two experiences together were unforgettable. So again, D is the best answer because it describes the author's takeaway. It best describes the author's takeaway. All right, guys, that's it for test corrections. Make sure you picked 3 of these to type in. Go back in the video anywhere you need to get those answers. Type them in your words, and then upload this to your Google Drive to get credit for your test corrections. All right, friends, that's a wrap. See you later.